Hi everyone, welcome to AJ's Bible Commentary. Each week I prepare lessons for my youth group and I prepare lessons to teach to teenagers in Sunday school classes, and I realized that there's not a lot of content out there to equip teachers like myself. And so I hope this is a blessing to you. If it is, I want to ask you to like and share it. But we're going to be starting in 1 Samuel chapter 14. I know that might be a weird place to start, but it's where I'm at with my teenagers. I'm definitely going to go back and record the first 13 chapters of 1 Samuel. I love this study. It's very rich. I love learning about Samuel. I love looking at Saul, Eli. It's just a great story. And where we are today, we're in 1 Samuel chapter 14. And we see, we'll start by reading the Bible and then going through, and I'll break it up into some parts. All Bible study needs to start by spending time in the Word of God. I hope you'll prayerfully spend time looking into this passage with us. So the passage starts. Now, it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan, the son of Saul, came unto the young man that bears armor. Come, and let us go over the Philistines' garrison, that is on the other side. But he told not his father. Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah, under a pomegranate tree which is in Migron, and the people that were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, wearing an ephod, and the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. So we start here. Jonathan has gone off to battle. He has gone off with his armor bearer. They have gone to get reconnaissance to look at what's going on with the Philistine army. And so Jonathan's doing that, and we find that Saul has retreated. He's away from the battlefield. I love the picture that we see here of Jonathan's going. He's going like special ops, and he's looking into what the Philistines are doing. And in the meantime, Saul's sitting underneath a pomegranate tree. And it just kind of, this parallels very closely with what we saw in the last chapter, where Saul is not partaking in the battle. Jonathan goes, he slows the garrison of Philistines, and once again, and there, Saul takes credit for it. He says, look at what I've done. He doesn't give credit to the Lord. He doesn't give credit to his son. He says, look at what I've done. So this has a very strong parallel with 1 Samuel chapter 13. We see that Saul has a priest with him. And it's interesting. We look at verse 3. It says, and Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli. So we have the son of Phinehas, Eli's son. So we have Eli, the line of Eli. Now it's interesting that we have this person here, because if you remember back in chapter 13, Samuel has abandoned Saul. He has left Saul. And so Saul has gone and found a replacement for Samuel. He went and found this line of the priest that we know, if you go all the way back to 1 Samuel chapter 2, remember Samuel is introduced, he's a child, and the man of God comes to Eli and says, your family will be cut off. He says that no one's going to grow old in your house. This is not God's elect for the priesthood. This is a replacement. But Saul knows he needs to have the man of God on his side, so he's brought in this. I won't go so far as to call him a false prophet, but he's a false priest. He's not who's supposed to be filling that. He's got him in the ephod. Some people will argue that this is actually who's supposed to be there. I just think that this is an example of Saul being prideful. He recognized his error whenever he chose to offer the burnt offering because Samuel wasn't there. So he says, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to get someone who, even though he might not be the right person that God has chosen, I have chosen him as the king. I think this is just another example of Saul and his pride being lifted up. And he gets this false priest to stand there and have all the pomp and circumstance because Samuel has cursed him. Samuel has left him. So the verse continues in verse 4. It says, and between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go out over the Philistine garrison, there was a sharp rock on one side and a sharp rock on the other side. And the name of one was Bozez, and the name of the other was Senha. The forefront of the one was situated northward over the Michmash, and the other southward over Gibeah. And Jonathan said to the young men that bare his armor, Come, let us go over unto the garrison, and these uncircumcised, it may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint that the Lord to save by many or by few. And his armor bearer said unto him, Do all that is in thine heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. Then said Jonathan, Behold, we will pass over unto these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. If they say unto us, Tarry until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place, and will not go up unto them. But if they say thus, Come up unto us, then we will go up, and the Lord hath delivered them into our hand, and this shall be a sign unto us. And both them discovered themselves unto the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor bearer, and said, Come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said unto the armor bearer, Come up after me, for the Lord hath delivered them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer slew after him. And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men, within as it were an half acre of land, which is a yoke of oxen might plow. And there was trembling in the hosts in the field among all the people, and the garrison and the soldiers, they also trembled, and the earth quaked. So it was a very great trembling. So we see this conversation between Jonathan and his armor bearer. I see a lot of parallels here between David and his armor bearer that we're going to see here in just a few chapters. But we see that Jonathan's up there, and he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up, if they tell us to come up to them, then we're going to go up to them. If they say that they're going to come down to us, we'll wait and we'll slaughter them here. I'm not a tactician. I'm not a soldier. I've never been to war. I respect our men and women in the military a great deal. For me to dive into this and kind of talk about the tactical implications of that, I don't fully understand them. But what we can see here is that Jonathan is seeking out the Lord. While he says, okay, if this is what they tell us to do, then that's what we'll do. If they tell us to do this, we'll do that. And I think we see this, once again, a contrast between Jonathan and his dad, Saul. Saul has this bad priest, that he has sitting with him underneath the pomegranate tree. But Jonathan's out there doing the work. He's looking to see what God is going to do with him. He wants to see God work. He is eager to see God work. So then they call him up, and Jonathan whoops him. What I think is really important for us to emphasize here is 20 men doesn't seem like that much. But Jonathan did that on his own. Quite literally, there were 20-1 odds. And Jonathan, with his wisdom and tactics and knowing what he was doing and having the Lord on his side, he says, God can deliver us whether there's many or whether there's few. So picture this. You're in the Philistine army. You're about to go down and kill the Israelites. And Jonathan comes up and he just kills 20 of you. He goes and he's looking for more. He's ready to whoop up on some Philistines. He's ready to go to town. And that's scary. But we have to go way back. Remember, whenever we were looking at the story of the ark, and remember the Philistines were coming to attack Israel, and so they bring out the ark, and the Philistines take the ark, and they take it to one town and then to the other, and it brings plagues. And if we go back to that, well then, look at how this is laying out for the Philistines. The Philistines have started being aggressive into Israel. They've started pushing away from the Mediterranean Sea, away from the ocean. They've been pushing eastward, and they're taking land from the Israelites. It's hard for us to grasp this because we serve the one true God. We know God is everywhere. But if we look at this from the perspective of the Philistines are thinking about this, and they're going, our fish god must be weak here because we're far from the ocean. We're in the middle of the desert. We're fighting Israel. And our God has left us. Our God is weak. And we've once again provoked the God of Israel, and he has sent his champion and Jonathan to come and to slay us, the Philistines. Think about that going through the heads of these Philistines. These are very superstitious people. These are people who don't understand who God is. They don't understand how these things work. We can look back and say, oh, how foolish. But that's how they understood the world. Their God is a fish god. He needs water. I mean, that makes sense, even though we don't believe in a pantheon of gods anymore. But we know that Israel, the God of Israel, is just as powerful today. I'm in Texas. He's just as powerful here as he is in Israel, as he is in Canada, as he is in, even in California, all right, with all those ungodly Californians out there. God is powerful there and able to work there. But the Philistines don't grasp that. So they're afraid, oh no, our God is weak and the God of Israel is strong, and we've once again provoked him. We've once again placed ourselves in the way of his judgment. And it causes all of this. It says, and they all also trembled in the earthquake, and there was a great trembling. So the people are fearful. And so now we switch back. We go back to Saul. So we had Saul sitting underneath the pomegranate tree. Jonathan goes out to battle, and now we see Jonathan has gone up. He's slain these Philistines, and now we're going to go and see what Saul's going to do. So in verse 16, look at what the Bible says. And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went out beating down one another. Then said Saul unto the people that were with him, number now, and see who is gone from us. Then said Saul unto the people that were with him, number now, and see who is gone from us. When they had numbered, behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Then said Saul unto the people that were with him, number now, and see who is gone from us. And when they had numbered, behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. So up to this point, Saul doesn't realize that Jonathan's gone. He doesn't realize that Jonathan's not there. So Saul starts looking around and he goes, get a head count. All right, line everybody out. We need to number everybody. We need to figure out who's not here. What's going on with the Philistines? This is strange. Saul wants to figure out who has caused this disruption, who's changed his plans. He's the king. He's in charge. He doesn't like the optics that he doesn't know what's going on. He wants to figure out why is the earth quaking? Why are the Philistines acting this way? So look at what happens in verse 18. And Saul said unto Ahiah, bring hither the ark of God. For the ark of God was at that time with the children of Israel. And it came to pass, while Saul talked unto the priest, that the noise that was in the host of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said unto the priest, withdraw thine hand. Okay, so look at what's just happened here. Saul realizes everything's going crazy. He says to his priest, he says to Ahiah, go get the Ark of the Covenant. We need the Ark of the Covenant. We need to consult God. This is Saul falling into that same trap that Israel fell into. He says, we're going to go to battle. We need the Ark of the Covenant. Let's bring it out here. Get our lucky rabbit's foot. We're going to rub it. And I need you to consult God. And then in the very next verse, he says, stop it. Well, what's going on here? Why would Saul say, get to the Ark of God, we need to consult God, and then see what's going on, and then says, no, never mind, don't consult God. I don't need you to do that. Well, consider this. Consider this from Saul's perspective. Saul has replaced this priest. He knows that this priest isn't the man of God. He heard from Samuel. He knows that Samuel has cursed him, that this man has no real authority. He is a prop. He's just there for the aesthetics of it. And so when he says, go get the ark, we could say, look, Saul's being a good guy. He's doing what he's supposed to do. But he doesn't actually want to hear from the Lord. He interrupts his priest. He says, never mind. I think that's why he got this man he got the grandson of Eli to be here, is so that he can boss him around. So that whenever he says something he doesn't want to hear, don't say that. Be quiet. Samuel wasn't willing to put up with Saul's nonsense. Samuel wasn't putting up with this. Samuel was interested in serving one person, God. But Ahiah, Eli's grandson, well, he'll stop talking. He's we already know that this is a compromised priesthood. Saul in his pride, he didn't want any accountability. He didn't want true godliness. He wanted the appearance of godliness. He wanted the ephod. He wanted the lineage. Samuel wanted an authentic walk with the Lord. Now look at verse 20. And Saul and all the people that were with him assembled themselves, and they came to the battle, and behold, every man's sword against his fellow. And there was a very great discomfort. Okay, so there's this chaos going on in the Philistine army. And all of a sudden, the Israelites who had betrayed, remember in verse 13, they start getting disgruntled. It's what causes Saul to go and wrongfully offer a burnt offering. As all this is going on, we see the Philistine army starts falling apart. Well, those Israelites realize, oh, we made the wrong call. We should have stayed with Israel. And so now within the Philistine camp, you have Israelites they betrayed the nation of Israel. Now they're betraying the Philistines. And they're like, whoa, let's fight for the God of Israel. We want to be on the winning side. What a terrible picture, but a clear one at that, of how often we treat the world. We say, okay, I want to be on the Lord's side. As long as it's convenient. As long as it lines up with what we want to do, I'll be on the Lord's side. But as soon as, oh no, I'm getting some persecution. Oh no, that's unpopular. Then, we'll go walk over and be with the world. And then we see God start moving. Maybe we go to a revival, or we see, oh, there's something going on in the church. I want a part of that. Well, then we're going to switch back over. You know, one thing we can say, Jonathan never loses the faith. Whenever we're teaching this, I plan to focus on this and ask my teenagers, whose side are you on? Do you allow the winds of culture, the times to determine whether you're going to be serving the Lord or serving the world? Do you have a faith that can be trusted? Are you willing to be patient? Are you willing to wait on the Lord? I hope you are. I hope that that's the type of person you are. I hope that that's the type of Christians that we're raising up in the youth group. So we're going to continue this chapter. I had to break this one up into two passages. We'll continue next week looking at this chapter. We'll see how this plays out for Saul, how this plays out for Jonathan. It's a great story. Gives us a great insight on how God's going to work and these people. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It's my first attempt. I know that it's going to be better. I want to let you guys know my notes for this will be down in the bottom in a PDF. Also, the PowerPoint that I used here. I know it's just Bible verses, but it's Bible verses. I think it's a good starting point for you. So I hope that's a blessing to you, and feel free to use that in any way. And I hope that this has been a challenge to you. Until next week, guys. Hope you have a great day. God bless, and keep the faith.